are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the Coronavirus Sessions. These are our daily little podcasts, about a half hour going out weekdays at 12 p.m. Just really trying to build up the community and get us through this whole coronavirus thing. Trying to save jobs, trying to save businesses, doing everything we can as a podcast to really support this community. So thank you for listening. Mike, what's up, man? Mike, you're here.
You like this? You like the new scenery? I changed it around. You get the other side of my dining room now. Yeah. My diner sign and the blue wall instead of the brown wall that give you something different to look at.
Dude, I love the set change. Thank you for taking the feedback from the previous episodes and changing it up. I appreciate that, man.
I'm gonna do it from every room of my house now. You're gonna get one for the kitchen on
cribs
next.
Whoa,
yeah.
GNV cribs.
Right.
So awesome, man. Well, before we get into it, I want to remind everybody that we need your support too. We need this podcast to live on. We really need the support of the community during this time. We do have a team to pay, and if you want, maybe make a donation. You could send a little donation directly to me on Venmo at Collin Austin, COLLIN AUSTIN. And if you do so, I'm going to give you a shout out on the podcast. How about that? How about them apples?
That's pretty legit. If I donate to you, will you shout me out on the podcast?
I will shout you out
introducing me.
Give us a little donation.
Right.
But look, you guys, we have a very special guest on the show today. There's these moments that happen where I actually get to bring in people who are personal friends of myself and of Michael's, I guess. I mean, and super excited to have her on the show and to talk a little bit about what's been going on in her life recently. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our former team members at New Scooters for Less, Casey Henshaw. Casey, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
Good. So
hold on. Before you guys, we should also give her another introduction. Say she's the director of catering at Sweetwater Branch Inn here in Gainesville, Florida.
Yes.
Well, I was going to get there, Michael. Jeez. So, no, Casey, so for our audience, tell us a little bit about who you are, how long you've been in Gainesville, where you work now, what you're doing, before Michael rudely interrupted me.
Just making sure.
I'm just kidding.
Making sure it gets in there. So yeah, I have been in Gainesville for about 8 years now. I moved here in 2012 for school, and then I never left. So I graduated in 2015 in December, and then have been working here as an event manager in some way ever since. Right now I am, for about the last year, I've been the director of catering events at Sweetwater Branch Inn. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. So, I mean, we could have had you on the show to talk about plenty of things, right? You're a wealth of knowledge, and you're an amazing event coordinator and doing amazing things. So, but the thing we wanted to get you on here to talk about was the fact that you're smiling now, but you probably weren't smiling a couple weeks, a week or two ago. So for our audience, Casey was one of the first people in our county to contract the coronavirus, correct?
Yes.
She's like,
that's me.
I don't know if you want to celebrate that or not, right? It's I'm kind of curious because I have my theories of how you got this thing, because we're friends. I see you on Facebook. I saw you traveling to Vegas, right? You were at Vegas at an event conference, right? And this was right with everybody was still doing events, the first week, 2 weeks of March, and then it was no more events right after that. But you were in Vegas, right? I mean, you were working in Vegas at this conference. Was that the in your mind, is that where you got this thing from, or like what happened?
I mean, it's so hard to say, but most likely some sort of between the travel there, the travel back. I mean, it was a conference of 6,000 people that had been to other conferences, very large conferences before that. So I would say, yeah, most likely that's where I probably got it. Whether it was in the airport or at the conference itself, or on the airplane. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint exactly. But
okay. So, I mean, when was that conference?
So I left on March 8th, and it was about a week, and then I got back on the 13th. So that was about 3 days before I started, like, I got back like 3 days before I started actually like showing symptoms. So it does seem like I got it at some point in Vegas, to have started showing symptoms just a couple days after I got back.
And when you got back, you started feeling some of these symptoms. Like, what were the first symptoms? Did it like instantly go into your head that, oh my gosh, I got this virus that everybody's talking about? Or were you just like, like probably the flu or something else? I mean, what was going through your mind?
So Monday, I got back on a Friday, and then the Monday after is when I started to get a sore throat. But that's it. So I kind of just thought like, oh, I mean, I also had weddings that weekend. I don't really like serve food. I don't do any of that when I'm actually on site. So I didn't like touch any food or anything like that, which is good. But so Monday is when I started getting like a sore throat, and then like 3 days later is when like on Thursday is when my whole body just started to ache. I woke up feeling a little bit off, but I went into work, and then it just kind of like progressively like went downhill. Like I literally like turned to Maria, who's my co-director, and I said, I gotta go home. And I left immediately. And then that's when I was like, oh, this might be the virus. But Monday, no, I had no idea.
It's all kind of a blur as we're going through this. What, if you can remember, when you first started feeling symptoms on that Thursday, what was the situation surrounding the virus in the country and at the workplace and everything then? Were people being encouraged to stay at home if they were sick? Had it got to that point where you're just treating it like it was any old sickness and that was okay? It's just kind of hard to put us back 2 weeks ago and remember how things were being looked at then.
Yeah, is this Thursday the 12th?
No, this is Thursday the
after
19th.
Okay, Thursday the 19th. Okay.
Yeah.
March 19th.
Yeah. So yeah, it is like a total blur, but I would say that it was kind of right around the time that people were being told, go home, stay at home if you feel sick, but it wasn't like the point where it is now, obviously, where it's like, okay, everybody needs to be home. You need to be around nobody, because at that point, we were still able to hold events under 50. So we had like the Alachua County thing where they told us, no events over 50, and you have to have hand sanitizer on the tables and things like that. But we were not at the like stay at home order situation yet. But it was just if you feel sick, go home.
Okay. So Thursday is whenever you started to really get sick. And then when did you get tested? And what was that like?
So I got tested Friday morning. I called my doctor Thursday, pretty much as soon as I started feeling sick, and told them all my symptoms, told them I had just been to Vegas, and told them that I worked at a hotel. So like, I guess all of those combined were enough for them to say, okay, come in tomorrow. And they had like a designated space. They said, don't get out of your car. So you like pull up, and basically a doctor, and like you call them, tell them that you're there for your testing. Doctor in like a hazmat basically outfit comes out, and it's basically like the flu test where they like stick the swab up your nose. Super gross, super fun. And then I got a call from somebody the next day telling me that I tested positive for it. And basically that I needed to stay quarantined until my symptoms were, completely gone. I was asymptomatic for at least 3 days.
And this is stay quarantined at home. Like, you didn't have to check yourself in yet or anything like that.
Correct. So at this point, it was just, they told me, you're young, you're healthy. All you really need to do is just stay quarantined, drink a lot of water, make sure, you're doing everything you would if you just had the flu, and you should recover within, a week.
Okay. And so how did it progress? So this is now Friday, you get the positive, no, you didn't get your positive results until when?
Like Saturday or Sunday. I don't totally remember. Okay. Yeah. So
once you tested positive, how were you feeling then? Or like when you got that information, had you started to feel okay, or were you going downhill? Or
it definitely came in waves. I would say that at that point I was feeling like I had the flu, but it wasn't really any worse than that. So it would get to the point where I was like, okay, I'm feeling better. Like I must be, on the uphill climb at this point. And then like the nighttime would come and my fever would get really bad. My chills would get really bad. And then I started, to kind of go downhill from there. Cough got worse. And then I started to have like back and chest pains, which were really bad.
And then at what point?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, what point did you make the call to go? Because you went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? So at what point did you make that call? You were like, oh, this is bad enough. I gotta go check myself in.
So I'm really like, I don't like anybody paying attention to me. I don't like to be, I feel like I'm being dramatic or anything like that. So I avoided it for like 3 days. When it felt like it was getting really, really bad. And finally, I called my doctor kind of thinking that they would say like, you're just being dramatic, calm down. But I called them and I told them that I had been having the back and the chest pain. And I was talking to a nurse and she was like, hang on just a second, let me go talk to a doctor. And she came back on the phone and she was like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. So that was like 3 days after I had tested positive, or after I'd gotten the positive test. So at that point I packed up some stuff and I went straight to the hospital. And basically again, they had me like call them from the parking lot. And they met me out in the parking lot. Like somebody met me out there, gave me a mask, gave me gloves, like walked me through the hospital, and he's basically like checking around corners to like see if there's people. And every time he checks around a corner and there's a person, he's like, hey, go over there, like go away. Like it was a weird situation, but so yeah, I checked myself into the emergency room Wednesday, I think.
What is it?
And so
how did that make you feel though? Like, I mean, I'm like thinking, I'm like
emotionally, I'm sure she's calm and stoic because she's not being phased at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you know me, calm and stoic. That's
yes, I just want to make our audience very clear that like we're all really good friends.
Yeah.
Right.
The three of us have known each other for a very long time. So like you see us like joking and laughing and like talking about
right.
emotional states. I mean, we're super comfortable with each other. So I just want to make sure everybody understands, like, we're not.
It's not to make light of any situation or anything.
Exactly. But I mean, I'm just trying to, like, because of how well I know Casey, I'm trying to picture Casey being told to put these gloves and masks on. And like, I mean, did you feel like ostracized a little bit? Did you feel
absolutely. Especially when he's like I said, he's literally like looking around the corner, like telling people to go away. And I'm walking 6 feet behind him and he's like pushing open doors so that I don't touch them. And it's just this whole, like, it literally felt like I was like I don't know, like a freak show, like the COVID-19 patient being walked through the hallways of the Shands ER. And then when I was checked into the ER, they put you in this room with an anteroom, which is like an airtight room that the nurses and the doctors have to go in and shut that door and get all like dressed in their everything and then come into my room. But in the ER, both of those walls were all glass. So like everyone that was walking by could see the COVID freak patient. Like that's kind of how I felt. Like if it was anybody else, like third party, like I wouldn't have felt like they were a freak or anything. But yeah, I felt like I was a little ostracized.
So, and then you just had to stay, like, how long were you in there for?
So I was in the emergency room for maybe like 12 hours. And then they admitted me to the hospital because I had pneumonia. So they did like a chest x-ray, they took a bunch of blood, they put IVs in, both my arms and everything. And that was fun. And then they checked me, or they admitted me into the hospital. So they moved me to a room, like upstairs, and I was there for a total of like 3 days until they discharged me.
I mean, in this, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say, did the symptoms stay consistent? Did anything new come on once you had tested positive and throughout? Like, did anything get worse, or like how? Like obviously you're diagnosed positive, but how did the symptoms change? Just really for anybody that's out there that, you know, we hear all this stuff on the news and everything, but how did it affect you, and what should people be on the lookout for?
I mean, from what I've read, it's different for everyone. So like, this is strictly my experience, obviously. Once I got my positive test, like I said, I felt like I was kind of on the uphill, but my cough got way, way worse. My cough even got worse in the hospital. So, that was something that was like, I had just started out with a sore throat, and it kind of just progressed. And then my back pain from the pneumonia was really bad. Like it was almost like a feeling of like, I just couldn't get comfortable, which is really, really frustrating, especially when you're sitting in a hospital bed for 3 days. And then I would say the dehydration was really, really bad. Like I couldn't, like when I was at home, I just like could not get hydrated, no matter how much water I drank. So that was another reason that they admitted me, because they needed to give me like a bunch of fluids to make sure that I wasn't dehydrated. And then also, I couldn't eat. Like I didn't eat for like a week, basically. I lost like 8 pounds. It was not the way that I was anticipating losing those 8 pounds, but here we are. But yeah, I would say they got worse. Like those few things got worse. The like chest pain wasn't too bad after I checked myself into the hospital, but yeah.
And I'm curious too, like I know your mom came up and visited you. What was that like for her? And was she able to see you? Like what was that like?
She was not. So they wouldn't let her in the emergency room at all. The only people that could come into my room were like doctors or nurses that were fully, you know, in their get up and everything. So my mom, basically, she just stayed in a hotel. The doctor even told her like, don't eat, cause she was like going to come into my apartment and like disinfect everything. And they were like, no, don't do that. Because they didn't want her around all of my stuff that had been infected. And pretty much anybody, but you know, she's close to the like vulnerable age, where it starts to get, you know, iffy on if, you know, it's safe to be around people, with it. But yeah, she was definitely stressed that she couldn't see me. I was stressed because she was here, and, you know, I felt bad that she was here in a hotel and that she couldn't do anything, that she couldn't see me. So it was definitely like just kind of a stressful situation overall. But on the day that I was discharged, she went to the grocery store and like got me a bunch of groceries, and dropped them outside my apartment door. And then I like waved to her from the window, which was kind of cute, kind of sad. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that was as close as we got.
I mean, at what point did they make the call it was fine for you to go home? Did they just say you have to go back into quarantine in your house just because you're feeling better and go home and don't leave?
Basically, so they kind of just said like, okay, do you feel better? Which was not great for me because, again, like, I don't like attention. I don't like people, looking after me. So when they were like, do you feel good enough to go home? I was like, yeah, of course I do. And I kind of did at the time. And then I got home and yeah, they said just basically, again, quarantine until your symptoms are gone, go straight home. And then don't basically quarantine until 2 to 3 days of being asymptomatic. But yeah, I got home and basically I was like, yeah, I'm good to go. They discharged me. It took a couple hours for the discharge process. And then I walked up my stairs and I couldn't breathe. So that was kind of scary. I thought I had made a mistake for letting them discharge me because I couldn't breathe. And then my fever spiked up to 104 that night. And then since then it's been getting better.
And so did they put you on any kind of medication, or was it just simply they're just monitoring you to make sure you don't go one way or the other?
So they gave me basically a Z-Pack, and which I guess is a common thing that they're giving patients right now. And then they gave me something for my cough, and some pain meds, and then a bunch, like I said, a bunch of fluids. And then they did a couple of different antibiotics through the IV, but I'm not positive what those were. I know that's terrible to not know what they did, but.
And you don't know what they were going after, or was it just to make sure you didn't develop any new infections? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a blur being in the hospital because it was my first time in the hospital, ever. And I was alone, and it was this deadly virus that I'm being told that I have. So a lot of it I don't remember. It's on my discharge papers. But yeah, I think it was just kind of for the hope that I didn't get worse, or that I didn't. The Z-Pack, I guess, is something that they're giving people with coronavirus, is what I heard. They didn't tell me too much while I was in there. After I got out of the emergency room, they just kind of monitored my vitals and kept an eye on, how I was doing physically, looked at, checked my oxygen, made sure I was breathing on my own well. So yeah.
How has, communication with your employer been through this? I mean, yeah, what did they say? Did they was it take the time off that you need? I mean, what, how did, I know that they really need you, but obviously you can't do anything through any of this. So what was that conversation like?
So I texted her the day I tested positive, and she immediately called me and was like, oh my God, just take the time, basically like you just said, take the time you need. I'm really fortunate to have a co-director who we do the same job. We, she does everything that I do. We just have different events. So she's been amazing through all of this. Every time I say, hey, I'm sorry I haven't been able to, do as much of the email, she's like, Casey, stop, just rest, just get better. So she's really been awesome. The owner of the company has been awesome. Just, making sure that I have everything that I need. She even offered to bring me soup one day when I was at home. So yeah, she's, everybody that I work with has been, just basically what can we do? And basically don't worry about work, so that I can just focus on getting better.
Do you know what case number you were? I mean, is it in the 20s, the 30s? I mean, it was in the early,
yeah.
now what are we at? Are we at 100 cases at the time of this recording? This is April 3rd.
It's definitely increased a lot since I was, since I tested positive. I remember looking at the reports while I was waiting for my results, and it said that like 21 people had tested positive, and there were like 25 pending cases. So I'm somewhere between like 21 and 46.
Okay, and the other important aspect to this, like I think everybody needs to understand, is that you're super healthy. I mean, like you're working out daily. You know, and how old are you? 25? 25. You know, so I think, you know, when you look at it, I mean, did you feel, I just know that has to play a significant role, right? I mean, in terms of, because you look like you've recovered really quickly. I mean, did it take those 3 days? I mean, when you had that fever, you said, you know, they were stay at home for 3 days. Is that all it took? I mean, when did you, like, how, so many questions I'm throwing at you right now. Like, how do you feel right now? Are you 100% right now? Or are you still like 80%? I mean,
I would put myself, like closer to like 80%. I'm still like, you know, fighting the urge to cough every now and then, which like, not a big deal. But I went for a run yesterday, which was not my smartest choice. I mean, I before this was all happening, like I was running, you know, 3-4 miles a day, no problem. And I went for 0.6 miles yesterday, and I stopped and my lungs were screaming at me. So that was kind of my indication that like, no, you're not quite there yet. And like you said, like you know, it does play a factor. It definitely does play a factor how old you are, how healthy you are. Obviously I am a lot better off than those who are elderly or immunocompromised. But it was weird in the sense that like, you know, they told me, and you're reading everywhere, like, oh, if you're young, you might not even notice that you have it. You might not even get any symptoms. And so like, I kind of had that false, like sense of security that like, okay, even though I have it, like I'll be fine in like a day or two. And then when it got so much worse to the point that I had to go to the hospital, and, you know, I was having trouble breathing, and, you know, it kind of went against everything that I had heard at that point. And that was kind of scary.
Did you have, that's gonna be a little bit of a weird question. But I mean, you know, you can expect it coming from me, right? I mean, like, I'm trying to think of, you find out that you have this thing, like in your mind, are you thinking like, oh my gosh, who have I shaken hands with in the last 48 hours? Or like, I mean, did any of that go through your mind? Were you reaching out to people saying, hey, heads up, I've been exposed to this thing. This is an awkward call, but I just wanted to let you know. I mean, was that going through your mind at all? Or, and did you do that, or like?
For sure. Like so when I had told my boss, and she told basically everybody that I work with. So most people that I had come into contact with, contacted me, and they were like, hey, hope you're feeling okay. That's pretty much all they did. I had one person that was like, when did you get it? How, like, what are your symptoms? When did we come into like, they were very like very concerned. Most people weren't. But yeah, I did, you know, I was more so concerned, like thinking about like, okay, did I come into contact with anybody that's immunocompromised, that's older? Like, I haven't been around, you know, like my grandmother or anything like that. So that's good. But I mean, I was on a plane with a bunch of people I don't know. I didn't shake hands with those people or anything, and at the conference, they were strongly discouraging people shaking hands and hugging and stuff like that. So I would say that I didn't really like come into physical contact with a lot of people, kind of thinking back, which is good, lucky, you know.
It's just interesting. I mean, and now after this is all said and done, I mean, there was an article in the Gainesville Sun. I mean, do you feel like there's this scarlet letter on your chest? Like people are like, let me stay away from Casey Henshaw for a little bit.
Right.
I mean, do you still feel ostracized? Like what does that feel like right now? And how should other people approach it? I mean, from the outside in, I think there's just a lot of panic and a lot of worry, right? So I'm just kind of curious as to your perspective from the standpoint of having contracted it.
Yeah, a little bit, and I think like I feel a little bit like that, and I think that that's a lot of my own like personal issues kind of playing into that. But I have texted people and been like, and told them that fear, told them that, okay, like when I'm better, are people still going to not want to be around me? Are people going to be afraid to be around me? Like, what's the deal? And like most people that I've talked to have been like, no, like I would be fine to be around you as long as you're better. So kind of talking to people has helped me get rid of that fear a little bit. Like it's still there. And, you know, I was saying earlier, like, you know, you read comments on the article and stuff like that. And, you know, you feel like people are so, you know, I don't know, people kind of jump on you for everything. So maybe strangers will not want to be around me if they recognize me from my picture or something, but I don't really care at that point. Because most of my friends and coworkers and stuff that I've talked to have kind of given me the impression that once I'm better, they don't really have a problem being around me.
What are people saying on the comments? I haven't seen this.
Well, it's just
I mean, if you don't want to talk
Michael's
about
laughing
it,
at me because he knows already.
But I also know that you read comments, and you're one of the only people I know that do read comments. So
yes, because I'm crazy. What?
People, I mean, when it comes to comments on posts or articles like that, I mean, you can't take anybody serious. You can't take, you know, what they have to say and like let it one, you shouldn't let it affect you by any means. But I mean, people do, and it's one of the reasons why people don't create social media content is because of the fear of what other people have to say. But you know, was something just really bad or like?
No, it was just so. In the article, like one of the quotes that they used was, you know, basically something along the lines of anybody can clearly get this. I'm 25 years old. I'm healthy. And I said, like in context, I said, this virus doesn't discriminate based on your age or health. And in context, I just meant like anyone can get it. I've said 100 times, you know, I'm recovering. I was not put on a respirator. I was, you know, very lucky to have recovered to the point that I have. A lot of people were not that lucky. And the line that they pulled out to post on Facebook, like with the article, was this virus does not discriminate based on age or health. So there's a bunch of people commenting and they're like, actually it does discriminate. You recovered, other people didn't, so you're wrong. So like it's just people saying stuff like that I'm like, oh. Yeah. But
and
like
then when you don't have the complete, I mean that happens with content all the time. Like I mean, if somebody pulls one sentence out of, you know, a complete message, I mean context gets lost. So
so but that just made it clear that they didn't even read the article. So
don't let it bother you. I'm super, super, super glad that you're getting healthy. My gosh, like, you know, it's interesting because I don't want to lie. Like when Mike had said, hey, like Casey has it, of course, like I was like, oh my gosh, like, is she okay? I was like, the first things out of my mouth. And then the second thing was like, when was the last time you saw Casey? It's almost like,
yeah, I mean, I did see you last week on Monday. So
I was like,
I think that St. Patrick's Day, right? It was an Orange Theory workout we did on Tuesday the 17th, which was 2 days before. So, yeah, it was crazy.
No.
Before we let you go, I know we're probably going to wrap up real soon. I do want to talk real quick, if you can, about Sweetwater and about the event space and how it's been affected. And I'm sure that's a lot to dive into, but also, you know, what can anybody do to help under the parameters that they have to operate under?
Yeah. For sure.
So it's been really hard. we went from, in that week that everything kind of like blew up, we went from having 10 events that week to 0. All of our events through March were canceled. Basically the last one that we had was the Sunday that I came home from Vegas, or the Sunday after I came home from Vegas. And then we didn't have any for the rest of the month. March, April, May is our busiest time of the year, or it's supposed to be. It's wedding season, it's graduation season. So everything for April has been canceled, or postponed rather. Most people are postponing rather than canceling. We're starting to get postponements for May now, and even a couple for June. So yeah, it's hard because obviously like that's our main source of revenue is people having their events with us, and then people staying at the inn because of those events. And now that they're not staying at the inn because of those events, we don't have the inn revenue either. So it's just a whole kind of, big circle of craziness. But we are, like I said, encouraging postponements. That's how people can help, is to, postpone their events, don't cancel. Obviously, it's different for everyone. Not everyone has the means or the ability to postpone an event. Some people are going into med school or something like that, and this was the only time that they could have their wedding, so they're just deciding to go to the courthouse instead, and so they are canceling. And I totally understand that. Everyone has their own situation, but the biggest thing people can do to help is just postpone rather than cancel. We can make it through, the next couple of months if we have to. And then we'll just be super, super crazy come, July, August, September, which are usually slower months. So we're just kind of swap our busy seasons. That's the hope at least. And then, yeah, so that's our hope. And we're just kind of taking it day by day. Making sure our clients are taken care of in the meantime, working from home, and yeah.
And I mean, have you had those conversations with the owner? Like, you guys know you can make it to that, make it the next 2 months without a lot of revenue coming in, or, do you know if they're filing for the PPP stuff with the government? Do you have any idea?
I don't know the specifics on that just because I've kind of been out of commission for the last 2 weeks, but we did talk to our accountant and she says that we're good for, the next couple of months. And I trust her. She's awesome. So whatever she says, I'm going to go with, and I'm just going to, I don't have a lot to do with like the books and the finances and stuff like that until it comes to like the end of the month, just kind of determining how much we made with events. But, we're just kind of doing everything that we can to cut costs where possible, which obviously we're not paying event staff right now because we're not having events, which is good, but it also sucks because those employees don't have any, hours coming in, which is hard. So, I've been in contact with some of my hourly employees, just kind of making sure that they're good, a lot of them are college students, so a lot of them are home, and, with their parents, and they are good. So, we're fortunate in that kind of situation, but, just making sure that everyone's taken care of is definitely a top priority of ownership, and of, the office staff.
So is the only revenue just coming from the inn, from people booking out rooms at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there are people booking rooms still, but then also we're booking events for next year, like brand new events and for fall and stuff. So there are deposits coming in for events for people that are like, yeah, I mean, it should be good in the fall, so I'm going to go ahead and book. So we do have, it's not the normal amount because we're not doing the events right now, but we do have some coming in because people are staying positive, and people are, still looking forward to getting married in the fall.
I think that's good. I mean, at least it kind of shows like a level of optimism, in my opinion. It's like, one of my biggest, I don't want to say one of my biggest fears, but I guess one of the things that could happen from this is that there's just going to be a lot, and I've said that I think there might be a lot of hesitancy to be in large groups when this thing is done. So the fact that people are confident and they're booking events, in the future, I mean, shows that like they're optimistic that things are going to get back to the way they always have been. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Book your holiday parties now, people. Let's go. Contact Casey and get it done. Yeah, like go ahead and book your holiday events. Like now's the time. You got all this time. You're sitting at home. You're watching our videos because you can't leave your house. Call Casey. Book your holiday party.
Oh yeah, they'll and those dates will book up fast too, because people will be, trying to postpone their wedding, but do it as soon as possible. So like I said, dates that were maybe not as popular before are gonna be the popular dates now. People are gonna book that Saturday before Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that, even though those are not necessarily the most popular days usually. Yeah.
I love it over there too. I mean, Shannon and I had our wedding night there because we got married at the Thomas Center, but we stayed at Sweetwater, and then we've had a couple anniversaries over there too. It's just such a nice place. So you guys do great work. Thanks.
And we do like romantic dinners and stuff too, where people can come in and have like a private dinner, which is something that's kind of. It's been something that we've kind of advertised for people, that they can have this private dinner without going to a restaurant. That's changed a little bit now with like the most recent orders, but and then we are starting, once myself and Maria can be back in the office, we're going to start doing to-go orders for just through our catering department. So
yeah, it's great. It's been really cool to kind of see the businesses and the catering companies like really, really adapt the situation that we're in, and that's great. I mean, that's exactly what you need to do, and it's it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool that we're figuring it out. We're figuring out ways to get through it. So
we're doing what we can for sure.
Awesome, Mike. Anything else, man?
No, I think that's about it, buddy.
Casey, I love you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You're the best. And I appreciate you sharing that. I was kind of like, I don't know how deep she wants to get into this stuff. And like, so.
Well, it's already all out there anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I appreciate your transparency. I really do. And I think it's going to at least just help people kind of be aware of the symptoms and kind of know what it's like. And then of course, like hearing the business side of it too. I mean, that's the whole reason we're doing this, is to really save amazing businesses like Sweetwater, make sure that no one that a great company like that that's been around for a long time can get through this and save their people too. So appreciate the insights there as well.
I'm sure more than most you're going to be excited for any kind of return to normalcy.
Yes, absolutely. One, I'm going to be happy to have like real human interaction in person and everything, but also just like I said, I worked for 20 minutes today just because there's no business right now, and I have never wanted to work a 60-hour week more. So
true.
Back to that.
Yeah, dude, my love language is physical touch. I like to hug people. I can't hug anybody right now.
we know. Yep.
Well, thanks again. And, Gainesville, stay safe, look out for those symptoms. Just do what you can. If there's anything that we can do to help, especially from the business standpoint right now, really, like I said, we're doing this to really help the businesses out there. We're going to get through this together. We can get through this as a community. The one thing all three of us right here have in common is that we are super passionate about Gainesville. We love this community and definitely want to see it succeed. So thank you so much for listening. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Casey, give us your best whoa.
Oh, I just did it. Whoa. I don't know why I do this every time I do something, but
I kind of like it though. I might have to pick this up.
It's my awkwardness.
All right, we will see you later, Gainesville. Bye.